Hi Sagittarius, welcome to your June 2019 Astrology 33 bonus love reading. This is normally a video that I do for the sign whose video from the previous month had the most views, likes, and new subscribers, but this month I decided to do it for all the signs. Also, before I forget, if you guys want to book a personal reading with me, follow me on Instagram or donate to the channel. Check out the description of the video for info on all that. So the first thing you guys will notice if you watch my regular readings is that there are different tarot decks on the table. So on the left side here we have the Lover's Path Tarot, and on the right side we have the Tarot of Sexual Magic. And this is also a different spread than we normally use. So this is a spread that I call the Bridging the Gap spread. And the concept behind it is fairly simple. The three cards on this side are meant to represent your energy. The three cards on this side are meant to represent your main love interest energy. And, this is a general reading too. So as we're going through the spread, if you feel like this is more like your energy and this seems more like the other person's energy, then definitely roll with that. But that's the general concept here. So the first cards would represent the past energies from you and then from them. Present energy from you, present from them, future, future. So, and then what we do after we get through the main spread is we actually try to pull some oracle cards to add some additional insight, which is where that bridge and the gap dynamic comes into play. Alright, so we'll get started with the main spread. In the past position from your side for past energy, we have the Seven of Staves. So that's the equivalent of the Seven of Wands in the regular Rider-Waite deck. And to me, what this represents is, you could have just been standing up for yourself. Especially if this is your energy here and this is the other person, they might have come at you in an aggressive manner. Now, it doesn't necessarily have to mean that it was a combative thing, it could have just been passionate, right? I mean, you have the dragon with the fire. So it could have just been that they were, maybe making a move towards you that was a bit more aggressive than you wanted it to be, possibly. But yeah, that's the main vibe that I'm getting, is that they came in, we'll see as we go along if this was actually about a conflict or if it was more them just, making an advance towards you that maybe was a little bit more aggressive than you were prepared for or expecting. But I definitely feel that that was the dynamic in play, because the past energy on their side is actually the Knight of Swords. So, that could mean, for one, that you could be dealing with a Gemini, because this is a card that represents Gemini. Or even just the fact that we're in Gemini energy right now for June, right? A lot of stuff going on in Gemini. But, yeah, this to me just represents someone who came in quick with communication. So to me, that would coincide with what we see there, so could have just been that they came towards you, making an advance towards you, and maybe, it's not necessarily unwanted per se, but maybe it was just a little more aggressive for your liking, especially if you look at some of the artwork in this card, right? So maybe that was a bit more of an aggressive approach than you were expecting, and you felt the need to kind of fend them off in that regard. In the present position on your side, we had two cards come up. So we have the Two of Arrows and the Nine of Staves. So to me, this shows that you're still undecided about, how to deal with them approaching you in that way, because the Two of Arrows, which is the equivalent of the Two of Swords, that's that energy. If you think about the Rider-Waite deck, the woman has a blindfold on and two swords crossing her chest and her back to the water and the moon. So to me, it's like, they're trying to keep emotion out of it and strictly apply logic to the situation. And then with the Nine of Staves, which is the equivalent of the Nine of Wands, if we think about the Rider-Waite there as well, there's a person standing there with the Nine Wands. Looks like they have a bandage on their head and they're on guard, feeling a little bit guarded. So with these two energies combined, that's really what I'm feeling, And it could even be with this card, if we look at the artwork in this card, it could even be that you might dream about them or think about them a lot. But, again, I feel like it was just more that their approach was a bit more aggressive than you were expecting or ready for. And maybe that's what you're trying to reconcile in your head, like, I don't know, what should I do about it, right? So that's the energy that I'm getting there. All right, in the present position on their side, We have the Four of Chalices, so that's the equivalent of the Four of Cups. And, to me, with the Four of Cups energy, this represents not being satisfied with the situation, but not necessarily doing anything to change it either. So basically, what that could be saying is, maybe after that initial approach, they felt, they might have felt like you rejected them, and now in the present, they're not really doing anything about it, They're just sitting around and maybe waiting for you to make the next move. Or, if we think about the Four of Cups in the Rider-Waite, the artwork there's 3 cups in front of a person. They have their arms crossed, and then there's another one headed to them. So that could be what it is as well. It could be that they're sending you another offer, but again, it's coming from that same place. It's more of the same, right? So if you turned it down the first 3 times, why would you say yes the 4th time, right? So it could be that energy as well. But either way, I'm getting that they seem to have cooled off at the very least. So if that was what you were going for, and with that Seven of Wands energy, if you really kind of fought them off and let them know that, hey, you weren't really feeling it, at least not, in the aggressive manner that they were coming across, it does seem that they are going to back down a bit as we head into the present energy. And before I forget as well, on the bottom of the deck on your side, you have the Queen of Coins. So this could just even be saying that, especially with the 2 of Arrows there, like I said, it could be that you're thinking about them and you are interested, but it could just be that you're focused on other things because, with the Queen of Coins at the bottom of the deck here, this actually is a card that represents Capricorn, and that's your 2nd house of finances, and there's a lot going on for you guys right now in that sign. You have Pluto in there, and then the South Node is there, and Saturn is actually conjunct the South Node for a pretty good chunk of the month. So, that could really have you focusing on finances, trying to think of, maybe what you need to get rid of, maybe reinvesting. So it could just be that your focus is so heavily on finances that you're like, this just isn't the right timing, Like I said, I'm getting the vibe that even though it looks like you kind of fought them off, that you could still be interested, but I just feel like either the timing was off or the approach itself was off. That's the main thing that I'm getting there. And then in the future position, we have the 8 of Coins on your side. So again, this is another card pointing to focus on finances. This is technically a Virgo card. There's not really anything going on there now as far as transits go. Maybe in July, Mercury might get there, but yeah, at least in June there will be nothing really going on in Virgo. So, to me, this just represents that you're really focusing on finances and maybe even starting your own business because, with the 8 of Coins energy, I see it as the making your own money energy. I mean, quite literally, we see them like making their own money. So, could just be that you're trying to get a business off the ground or something. So maybe it's just the timing is a bit off. And then on their side, in the future position, we have the 2 of Pentacles. So now, the 2 of Pentacles is that energy of not being able to make up your mind, right, between 2 options, similar to the 2 of Arrows in a way. But, and then if we look at their approach here, it's almost like he's like moving up towards her, but he's like reluctant to. He's like, oh, should I touch her? Should I not touch her? So again, maybe they're just still, maybe the way that you rejected their offer in the past has them a bit confused now and wondering like, okay, what's going on? Should I approach? So they could just be waiting on you now, letting you take the lead for a bit. In the bottom of the deck on their side, we have the 5 of Wands. So, I don't think that this is a third party dynamic looking at this card because the way I feel, this almost looks like it would be their butler or something like that, so I don't really think that's a third party dynamic. It could maybe be that, either you or they are in high demand. So, maybe that's what's going on. There are other people looking to see if they could get an opportunity or maybe even just rumors. So, maybe now depending on how you cut them off in the past, maybe they're relying on other people to tell them what's going on with you, That could be how that's playing out. But that could just represent competition as well. So, they could just maybe be thinking about coming back in a more passionate way again. And that's actually a card that represents the first 10 degrees of Leo. And I believe at the very end of June, Mercury, which is the sign, especially if you're dealing with a Gemini. So Mercury will actually be moving into Leo at the very end of June. So maybe that's going to be when they come back in. That could possibly be what that's pointing to there. All right, but next we'll move on to see if we could get some messages from this first oracle deck here. So this is one of the Mystic Moon oracle decks. So what I'll do with this deck is I'll see if we could get some messages from, like, an unspoken message from you towards them, and then maybe also an unspoken message from them toward you. So these are pretty straightforward cards, and I did pre-shuffle them before we started recording, but you know, I'll just try to see if we could get specific cards related to the spread to come out. And what I do with these is, you know, I'll shuffle them for a while. If it doesn't seem like anything's coming up, I just trust that and say, okay, you know, we're not going to force it and sit around shuffling all day for a card. We'll just trust that they meant there was nothing urgent that needed to come out. And if that's the case, you know, there is another oracle deck that we'll be using after this anyway, so we'll definitely get some additional messages, but maybe just not from this deck. Alright, so like I said, we'll shuffle for a bit here and see if there's any messages from you towards them. Alright, almost had one come up a couple times, but not quite. And these are pretty straightforward cards, which I like, you know, because especially if sometimes the main spread might seem a little unclear. You know, these are just straightforward one-sentence messages on these cards for the most part. Alright, I'll give it a few more shuffles and then we'll move on if nothing pops up. Alright, nothing came up from your end, so we'll try it for their end towards you. See if anything pops up for that. I mean, in a way, I feel like this is a somewhat straightforward spread anyway. You know, like I said, it just seems like the timing was off. Either it was their approach itself that you didn't like, maybe it was a little too aggressive, or, you know, it was just you maybe were you're just focused on finances, so you know you might have interest in them, but it's just the timing's not right for you right now. Alright, and we did get a card that popped up for you, and it says, how could you still love me after all I've done? So this is interesting that this came up. So maybe, you know, maybe I downplayed the severity of what this was in the past. Like, maybe they really came at you in an aggressive way. They might have said some really harsh things to you, and, you know, maybe it made you feel like you needed to defend yourself. So maybe that's why they're in this energy now. Like, maybe they know they messed up, you know what I mean? And you're still on guard because of it. So maybe that's what it was. You know, maybe it was just really a pretty big argument that you guys might have had. Trying to think. I think Mars and... yeah, recently Mars and Jupiter actually opposed each other while Mars was still in Gemini. So it could have even been around that time, since this is past energy too. I don't remember exactly when that was, but maybe that was even what did it, especially if you were dealing with the Gemini, you know, because Mars energy in their sign and then Jupiter in yours, the opposition. That might have even been what caused the big argument between the two of you. But, you know, this doesn't necessarily have to resonate for all of you, but that could just really point to the fact that maybe, you know, I underestimated exactly what happened in the past year. It might have been a much bigger deal, and maybe that's why you were coming at them defending yourself. And, you know, we have that Knight of Swords energy there. Now the Four of Cups is almost them, like, realizing they messed up, but not knowing what to do, right, with the Two of Pentacles, how to get back on the same page with you. Alright, and the last thing we'll do is we'll pull a card from this deck here. This is the Wisdom of the Oracle deck. And, you know, I use this, if you guys watch my general readings, this is one of the Oracle decks I use there every month. So It will look familiar to you when we get a card from here. But yeah, we'll just use one card from here as an overall message for the reading. Alright, shuffle a little bit more, see if we get anything to pop up. This one I'll be a little bit more patient with it and shuffle a little longer just because, you know, I don't necessarily want to leave it like this. So it would be good to see if we could get some kind of additional messages going for you guys. But yeah, I mean, I'm still pretty sure that the main energy we picked up from the main spread is the main situation going on. That either you guys are focused on finances right now, so the timing's just off in that regard, or their approach was just a bit more aggressive than you were prepared for, and you know, you're just trying to get that knocked down a bit. All right, there we go. Got one. Regeneration. So there's the all right, now it's focused. There's the artwork for it, and the number is 46. So yeah, interesting. It's definitely possible, like I said, for at least some of you, this could have actually been a pretty big conflict, and maybe the regeneration is saying, you know, how you could get back on the same page with each other, if that's even something you're interested in. All right. It says rebirthed, second chances, new opportunities. The Oracle's message: second chances are available to you now. Whatever opportunities you thought were dead are now revived in a more authentic, stronger form. Whatever you may have perceived as a failure or loss is now being replaced by something better and more powerful growing in its place. This rebirth is assured. Step into your new life. Destiny is being fulfilled in wondrous ways. So, the interesting thing there is, like I said, when I was mentioning the energies here, the progression, I was saying at the very least with the Four of Cups and then the Two of Pentacles, it looks like if they were being pretty aggressive towards you in the past, it looks like they definitely leveled that off. Maybe even to the point where now they're a little bit nervous and almost waiting for you to take the lead because they're like, you know, completely lost as to what to do regarding the connection. So, you know, if that was your goal, you know, that you just felt they were being a little too aggressive, this seems like a good sign for that part anyway. The relationship message itself says the world is based on connections and relationships. No matter what loss has occurred in the past or even now, death and endings are only illusions. There is life after death, love after loss, and in this moment, you are radiating the regenerative life force energy that makes you irresistible to love in all forms. Now is the time when you will see evidence of this new emergence. Can you feel it? Love is rising up to greet you. So, you know, for those of you, like I said, if this was some kind of conflict, especially, it does look like it's saying if you were interested in getting things back on track, this looks like it could definitely happen this month. And, you know, that doesn't surprise me as far as Mars being in your opposite sign might have brought about some kind of conflicts. And with Mars, too, in your opposite sign, generally speaking, when things are in your opposite sign, it almost makes you feel like in your relationships that someone else has the upper hand, essentially, right? Like, okay, it's like the Mars is almost a weapon for that person. So they're like, they had Mars in their favor when you had that opposition. But now the next planets to move through there, we'll have the Sun, we'll have Mercury and Venus moving through there through June. So, it's just one of those things where those energies are going to be, well, Mercury will be there at least for a little bit of June. It's going to move on to Cancer pretty early, but Venus, I believe, is going to be there like around the time of the new moon, and then most of the month of June. So if you think about it that way, that Venus energy could definitely help smooth over any conflicts that might have happened when Mars was in the sign, if that makes sense. So, as those planets go over those same degrees, you could basically, put things back together if you're interested in doing so. All right, so we'll wrap up there, guys, and I'll see you all next month. Bye.